you are currently looking at visuals of the new king and queen consort on the palace balcony. Let's take you straight to London. And now you're looking at those flypasts that we've been waiting for almost all day. What a sight to see, really an extraordinary event as you look at these visuals coming in live from London. The world's eyes today are on Britain and the coronation of 74-year-old King Charles III. And all week we are joined by Vikram Chandra, who has been covering this extraordinary event and so much more from the capital over there. Vikram, great to talk to you. Really, what an extraordinary event for many of us, a first in our lifetime to see the coronation of a king after so long. Of course, Charles was the longest serving British monarch in waiting since he had been the heir apparent at the age of 3, and now he gives that place to his eldest son, William, which he had with the late Princess Diana. Tell us about the mood at the moment.
Well, I have to say, other than the fact that it's been rather damp and rainy, the mood's been buoyant. People have been here all through the day. They don't seem to be caring much about the fact that it's been raining. There were large screens that are set up here. I'm right next to Buckingham Palace. As you can see behind me, the parade is continuing to wend its way back. If you know, we can pan and show it to you. Also, right above us, I don't know if you can hear it. There you have the planes are going past. Those are the red arrows and the flypast that is taking place right here. King Charles and Queen Camilla at the balcony, and they're cheering. I mean, sort of all of this is being done for them, of course, the flypast. So considerable excitement, considerable pageantry. It's a parade. It's a bit like, you know, I am reminded, of course, about the Indian Republic Day parade, but hey, guess whom we probably got the idea from? So a lot of pomp, a lot of pageantry, a lot of excitement. And I think, yeah, I think for the common person, to the time to come out and celebrate and enjoy themselves and remember what unites them and forget about a little bit about the cost of living and the other problems that they're having, not least of which, of course, in Britain is the weather.
And Vikram, this has been really the 40th coronation in Westminster Abbey since 1066. And there was a lot of talk before the coronation ceremony that it was modernized for the 21st century, but really a tradition dating back 1,000 years. And we really did see that during the entire ceremony, the tradition playing out, and something that was not only fascinating for the world to see, but the youngsters of the monarch also, when they cut to them, it just seemed like they were all old enough to kind of contemplate what is finally going on. So, you know, it's interesting that we talk about this modernization, but how different has it been since the coronation of Elizabeth in comparison?
Look, you're talking about an event. Queen Elizabeth her coronation was 7 decades ago. There's no comparison between the Britain of 7 decades ago and the Britain today. Not least the fact that Britain is now a multicultural, multi-ethnic sort of a nation. There are a large number of faiths, there are a large number of people of diversity, people of color out here. So it's a very different country. And though the ceremony was largely the same as it has been through the centuries, there was certainly the taking note of the fact that Britain is a different country. the fact that, yes, it was a Christian ceremony, but it was also mentioned there that King Charles is supposed to make Britain a place where people of all faiths can practice their religions. That was specifically mentioned. You had gospel music out there. You had female clergy taking part in the entire function. You had people of other religions coming and handing tokens, to King Charles. So other faiths were also represented. It was historical, but certainly there were nods to modernity, and there were nods to the new sort of a country that Britain now is.
And, the shorter parade route and the role for all Britons other than aristocrats to take place, as you mentioned, a nod to the country's diverse group on the one hand, but then you see a lot of the world's monarchies have really discontinued this tradition. But Britain has stood strong, and one might argue is because the people want the monarchy there. Without the people, the monarchy would not survive. But definitely, King Charles III now will have a heavy weight on his shoulders for continuing this tradition in the so-called modern world.
Yeah, I think, look, let's separate Britain and the rest and the other countries. Let's remember, King Charles is not only the head of state for Britain, he's also the head of state for a multitude of other countries. And in those countries, a debate is taking place. There are many countries in the Caribbean, for example, who have said, we don't actually want King Charles or the British monarch to be our head of state anymore. We want our own head of state. And that's happened in some countries in the Caribbean. There's a debate that is raging in Australia and in New Zealand. Both their prime ministers who are here, and they did pledge their allegiance to King Charles, but both of them are Republicans. And we've heard the Australian Prime Minister, for example, saying, I'd like an Australian to be the head of state. So in other parts of the world, there is this slight thinking that do we want our own head of state in Canada, Australia or New Zealand, or do we want the British monarch to be the head of state? But here in Britain, I still feel that there is, among a large number of people and a majority of people, you don't have a majority of people saying we should do away with the monarchy. And there's a reason for that, because I think the monarchy gives them that icon. It gives them that sense of something that would possibly unite them. All countries need an icon they can unite around. It's a flag in some cases, it's a constitution in other cases. For the British, it is the monarchy. And I don't think that's changed just yet.
Right. Ever since the beginning of the establishment of the monarchy, there has always been this conversation about whether or not it will thrive and survive. And now we know, according to historians, that they really think about 100 years ahead. So it's not just about King Charles III and how he will perhaps be the new king, but also William and his successors as well. And then there's that talk about how the country is really going through an economic crisis and how much this spectacle really costs. And as you rightly mentioned, the majority of Britons, they do want this monarchy sustained because it gives them that sense of identity. And we really saw a sense of unity despite the protests. But with everything else that's going on in the country, do you think that there was some kind of dilemma, for a lack of a better word?
No, I don't look that the British monarchy has had periods of crisis. There's been a period of drama. There's been a lot of soap opera out here as well, which has actually been made into Netflix serials. So all of that has happened. But let's remember, when you're talking about the immediate future of the monarchy, King Charles is not as unpopular as he once was. His popularity has actually been rising. And the same goes true for the Queen, for Queen Camilla. Her popularity wasn't that high, but it has been rising. And then the next generation, the Prince of Wales, William, is actually really, really popular out here, as is Kate Middleton. You should have seen the cheering. I was there, and as the King and Camilla went by, there was cheering, and then even more so when William and Kate passed. So I think at least for the future, for the immediate future, that's what you're going to look at. What's going to happen 10 years from now, 30 years from now, who knows? I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen in the world. But at least for the immediate future, I don't think they're doing away with the monarchy just yet. Not in Britain. In other countries, there may well be that debate.
And Vikram, you talked about the tabloid gossip and Prince Charles and Queen Kamala now. And, you know, a lot of us have really seen his life played out and the burdens that he had to really endure throughout his lifetime, that fairy tale wedding with Princess Diana, and then reports of infidelity with Camilla while he was married, the divorce, and how unpopular they were, of course, after Diana was killed. And it's sort of 25 years later comes full circle, and we see that the British have accepted Charles, as you mentioned, and definitely accepted Kamala as the Queen. Do you think it's because they have a more favorable really opinion about them? Do you think it's because they've been so loyal to the institutions of Britain and all the charity work that they've been doing? What do they owe this to?
Well, I think it's partly the charity work and their own personality and all of that. But again, as I said, remember that the world has changed. You can't really expect in 2023, yes, people are going to be worrying about things like, oh, you're marrying somebody who's divorced, or, you know, there are problems in a marriage. It's par for the course. It's par for the course for the common person. You remember that at the time of when Queen Elizabeth had taken over, Princess Margaret, for example, was not allowed to marry somebody who was a divorcee. It's very different now, 40, 50 years later. So I think those issues don't matter quite as much as they did. Yes, there will be questions about look at the expense of the monarchy and look at how much money we are spending and aren't there other things to worry about. But those aren't necessarily the questions. And it's also possible that just in the recent past, there's been a certain amount of sympathy that has come both to King Charles and to Queen Camilla and William as well, because of what's happened with the entire Harry and Meghan situation. I have to tell you that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not particularly popular here in Britain, not by a long shot. The only people who are more unpopular than them when it comes to the Prince Andrew, and that's not saying much. You must have noticed, incidentally, hardly any mention of Prince Harry throughout the coronation, throughout the day. It's almost as if, been sort of blurred over a little bit. Meghan Markle, of course, herself is not here. Maybe that entire episode has also led to a certain amount of sympathy for King Charles, given all that's happened in the last year and a half.
Yeah, that's absolutely very true. We saw one of those powerful moments when Prince William knelt in front of his father, of course, Prince William, the eldest son that King Charles had with his late wife, Princess Diana, and we saw Harry sitting in the audience, the second son of King Charles, again with the late Princess Diana. But of course, in that infamous interview now, Princess Diana once said that she never imagined herself being queen anyway, and we see that did not happen. So a lot of really a lot of family affairs that we've all lived through with this monarch.